Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome to my spoiler review for Monarch Legacy of Monsters, Episode 3. What's going on, everybody? And yes, we are back with another spoiler review for Monarch Legacy of Monsters, and I am so excited to talk about this episode with you guys. Yes, we are getting this one a little bit early with the holidays here in the States. They are going to be dropping this on Wednesday, which was a surprise to me. When I got the calendar, it said that this one would be on the 24th, but alas, we are here. We are talking monsters. So let's do it. And yes, I hinted in the last episode that this was my favorite of the episodes that we have seen thus far. So, of the three, number three is significantly my favorite by a wide margin, and we will get into why. Before I get into that, I did want to make a couple of corrections on this. So, yes, I did call Kay the wrong name a few times in my spoiler review. I totally did that. Uh, my bad. You know, again, I was very sick. I wasn't fully into it. I had a lot of notes. 2 episodes is a lot to sit down and break down, especially when you're just going scene by scene. So that's my bad. As well as referring to the spider on Skull Island as the mother spider, when in reality it is entitled in the Monsterverse Mother Longlegs. So that's my bad again on that. And I did get an official name for the dragon thing in episode 2 that I called Batra. Again, that was just a rumor, something that I'd seen on Facebook, so I couldn't confirm nor to deny if that was it. It did not look like Batra to me, and it wasn't. No, this is considered the Ion Dragon. So very cool to see some new creatures, and yeah, I think that's going to be the consensus here. I think we're going to see a lot of smaller, Monsterverse creatures like Mother Longlegs, who only had like a scene or two. That aren't a big influence to the plot, as well as some new creatures that don't really step on the toes of anything like a Gigan or a King Ghidorah or anything like that. Not to say that those aren't in the series at some point. I mean, I haven't seen Gigan. I will just tell you that right now. And King Ghidorah, I don't think is in this so far. I mean, in the episodes that I've seen, they aren't at least. But I can say that the new monsters, they're fun. They're here to play. And as the series goes on, we get a whole lot more of them. But enough dwelling on my past mistakes and screw ups. Let's dive into the new episode and hopefully a very limited amount of new mistakes and screw ups. So, yes, Monarch episode 3 entitled Secrets and Lies. Yes, this opens up right after episode 2. So we don't have like a drastic time jump like we did in episode 2. No, we're just picking right back up at the retirement, prison community, whatever you want to call it. Kurt Russell is still saying, hey, you guys got to make a choice. We got to decide what's going on here. And he basically puts it on them and they decide, okay, well, we really don't have an option here. We got to go with you. So it turns into this cool action scene. They break out, they hop in the van. There's a couple of good witty jokes, Kurt Russell's being Kurt Russell throughout this. And, I think again the Lee Shaw character is really consistent between performances. I think that you're going to see that the most in this episode because now that Kurt Russell's actually on screen for more than 2 minutes at the end of an episode, you'll be able to really compare the performances. But just the smile and the cadence that he gives and kind of the facial looks, like they really got it down. But yeah, this is a cool breakout scene. I really did think this was a nice, fun way to open it. To be honest, I think that the quippy dialogue feels like very much Marvel dialogue at the start here, where he's just constantly like making references to, oh, that's something your grandmother would say. That's something your father would say. It's like really tying in the fact that, yes, I know your parents, I know your grandparents, I know all of your family members, and you guys are definitely brother and sister, whether you like it or not. But yes, of course, we jump from there into the start of what I like to call big boy time. Yes, this is my favorite addition to this series so far that I can talk about, I should say. But this episode really blew my mind with this section in particular. We're going to kind of go through it piece by piece as the episode goes on, so I'll keep jumping back and forth. But I will be spending a lot more time with the past trio than I will be with our current trio. Not to say that one is more important than the other. I just think that what's going on in the past is more interesting to me as a Godzilla fan and a MonsterVerse fan. So getting into it, we see Lee Shaw is like waiting outside of an air base. He's got, obviously Kay and Billy there as well. They seem all dressed up. They're waiting for something. We see these cars pulling up, and we get the scene essentially where Lee Shaw has to essentially give all the information over to the government officially. We see, his commanding officer, who is now a general, talking with him, and he basically says, "Hey, here's the deal. We found some monsters. We got a little bit of proof in this hangar. Come check it out." And what do they have? They have a giant footprint of none other than our boy Godzilla. Yeah, I'd recognize those feet anywhere. That is a Godzilla footprint, and obviously, this shocks him. He's definitely a little bit more like, well, that's a bit of a concerning issue if there's a monster that big roaming around here. But yeah, I'm a little concerned. Why have we not seen this thing yet? And Billy makes a funny line of basically saying, "Oh, well, I have this theory of teleportation." But Lee quickly shuts him up because, yeah, they want to secure this funding. They want to get things going. And yeah, the general kind of leaves them basically saying, like, okay, let's figure this out. If you guys can get me more proof, if we can figure something out, like, we'll do what you need us to do. And what they need them to do is essentially, because we all know the Titans are attracted to, nuclear waste, bombs, things of that nature. They need that supplied to them. So they want the government to supply them with like plutonium or something, and they want to put it on an island and basically attract a Titan, so that way they can prove to them, yes, these things exist. We need to study them. So cutting back to our present day crew, we are back with Lee Shaw and the gang as they are on a ferry headed to South Korea. Why are they going there? Well, Lee Shaw says that he's got a buddy there who can help them get a plane so that way they can get to Alaska, because the mission right now is to go to Hiroshi's last known location and basically pick up where his trail left off, basically where everybody says that his plane went down and he supposedly died. There's a little bit of meandering in this scene. They kind of just, have a little bit of interpersonal drama. Obviously, Kate is still not really, gung-ho about the idea of her father, being a monster hunter and, hiding all of this from her family and everything. Lee does try to convince her that, hey, like, we were trying to tell people, but, things got out of our hands. It became the government's, responsibility. And we really didn't get as much say as we were hoping for. But, she's frustrated, obviously. This is kind of a lot to take in over the last few days. And yeah, she's just kind of needs to go off on her own, figure things out. And, Kintaro, he's doing pretty well with it. He's just got a lot more questions than anything. And I mean, like, he's really using Lee as this kind of wealth of knowledge to understand just exactly what his father was into. And May, for the most part, is just along for the ride. She kind of is just sitting there, really being only needed when she's needed. And that's usually when they need to look up coordinates or need to look up a computer thing. They haven't done a lot with her character just yet. So pretty much after Kate, doesn't see this thing as Lee calls it, their family legacy, she calls it their family curse. She storms out of the van, and we get a nice wide shot of the ferry, which then transitions into the islands of Bikini Atoll, which, if you're a MonsterVerse fan, you know exactly where this is going, and I can tell you without a doubt, I was geeking when this scene came on, and we saw them getting out of the truck, walking up and seeing that H-bomb with them putting the Godzilla symbol on it and crossing it out. I was just like, oh my god, yes, this is the reincorporation of the MonsterVerse that I love. I want to get into these details. I want to see what the world was like with these creatures before they were known, after they were known. I want to see the nitty-gritty details, and that's all I really wanted this show to be. And this is a prime example of those elements that I desperately wanted to see. Because watching Godzilla 2014, that was one of my favorite aspects, is seeing that archival footage, but it was so much in like the credits and the backgrounds and stuff that I just wish we would have seen it more, and now we actually get to see an entire episode centered around this event specifically. But to get more into the specifics of what's going on, the team shows up. Obviously, Kay and Billy are not pleased by this. They were not expecting them to drop a bomb on whatever this is. They just needed the material to attract it. And, well, Lee tries to go smooth things over with the general, and the general says, hey, I had to go up a lot of rungs just to get this approved. And let me tell you, when they heard about this, they said, if this shit's real, we don't want it walking around. We want this thing dead. You get a shot, you take it. And yeah, that's pretty much a non negotiable situation. And it really puts Lee in between a rock and a hard place here because, yes, he wants to, be there for his friends and support what their theories are and their initiative is with Monarch. But at the same time, he is also a military man and he knows that once they've made their mind up and once you've gone up that many rungs into the power structure here, there's really not a lot of wiggle room. Back to our present day group, they're essentially at a crossroads now because they're about to get to their destination. And when May told the group that, hey, I have all of the files, everything that we have in this bag backed up on my computer, Lee essentially said, okay, well, now we can destroy these so they don't fall into the wrong hands. Well, everybody's on board with this except for Kintaro. You see, he's grown very attached to these things. They were his father. He's basically been told over and over again by Lee Shaw specifically that what's in these files is going to help them find their father, and he's afraid to just throw it overboard. But at the same time, it poses a major risk, and if they already have a copy, they should just stick with that. So he has to make the tough call, and he has to throw over his father's research, his grandfather's research, into the ocean below. Not really a deeply impactful scene by any stretch of the imagination, but it does kind of strengthen this kind of relationship between Lee, Kintaro, and Kate. Essentially, really him instilling this legacy in them that says, hey, like, there is way more to this than you guys even know. You guys are a much bigger piece to this puzzle than you even know. So the fact that, we need to get rid of this to keep you guys safe, trust me, you got to do it. The group then makes landfall in Korea, and we get this pretty funny scene where, Lee is essentially like, hey, we got to get into line two. Get into line two. My buddy's already greased the wheels. We'll get through no problem. Well, the way the line is split and the way things are moving, they're not getting into line two. No, they end up going to line one, and we have a pretty comedic scene where, Lee tries to bullshit his way through customs. He says the terrorist word, and suddenly they're getting pushed out the back door and about to be thrown in the back of a van, essentially to be questioned, tortured. You never really know what's going to happen to them. But nonetheless, it's all an act. It's all a show because before they can get him in the back of the van, Lee's buddy Duho is introduced as one of the guards, and he beats up the other guard and frees his friends. I like Duho. I liked him from the moment he came on screen. I thought that he was a very fun character. He had this gripe, spirited energy. I think the chemistry between the two actors of Kurt and him, and they just did an excellent job together. Jumping from there, we got to make a pit stop over to our boy Tim, who hasn't done much and isn't going to be doing much this episode, except introducing us to his boss, who doesn't get a name. I literally looked all through the episode, all through the credits, online. I don't know what her name is. If you know and I missed it, I'm sorry, but she doesn't get a name. All we know is that she's big Monarch boss. She hates Lee Shaw, and she wants these Randophiles. And it just really instills the idea of Monarch being, again, the bad guys in this series. Jumping back to our group, we see that Duho and the team, they've all met up at this plane. Of course, if it's an adventure series or anything like that, it's going to be a piece of junk. It's an old vintage plane, as May says. And yeah, the team basically loads up, and they prepare to take off for Alaska. All right, now it's time to get into the kaiju meat and potatoes here, because yes, we are going back to the islands. We are here with Lee, Billy, and Kay. They're all preparing. Everybody's gearing up. You've got the people sitting in front of the basically the blast zone, getting ready to watch this bomb go off, as they showed in the flashback footage in 2014. And it's all set up beautifully. Again, the real big MonsterVerse Godzilla nerds are going to say it's not one-to-one, but I don't care. This is working fine for me. And yeah, Kay and Billy, they are not pleased about any of this. They really feel like this is going to kind of cut off everything that they're working towards, in the sense of just killing these titans before they can really get to understand them and study them, which, as we know, has been their main goal this entire series thus far. Things seem to not be going as planned, though. They've been there for a while. Nothing has happened until suddenly they get a blip on their sonar, and it is announced to the group that something is approaching. And what is that something? Yes, strap in, folks, because it is our boy Godzilla making an appearance once again. I love this. I mean, for the last episode, it was really just the San Francisco stuff where he shows up and, you see him for maybe a few seconds, and you don't see him for a long time here either. But the introduction is just absolutely epic. Him coming from the water, walking up to the bomb, really just looking it over, knowing that there is some good energy to soak up in there, and he is all for it. But I love the way that they show it through the old footage, through everything that they're able to do, all the different perspectives they give us, going up the spines and the water. I mean, it's all really prime stuff. Again, it's pretty amazing to see on a television show scale of of monsterverse filmmaking here. I mean, I'm just impressed that they're able to really get this kind of epic scope and nature here on TV. But again, if you're a monsterverse fan, you know exactly where this is going. And essentially, they detonate the bomb. Kay does try to stop it. She goes for the satellite that's basically sending the signal to detonate it. But Lee stops her, and as he stops her, the bomb goes off. It blows up in Godzilla's face, and you just see everybody watching the explosion. It's epic, just how we saw it in the archival footage. And yeah, it's kind of a tragic moment, I guess, for those who aren't in the loop. If you don't know what's going on, which I don't know why you're watching this series if you haven't seen Godzilla 2014 or any of the other movies. That's why are you doing that? Yes, they presume that they have destroyed Godzilla, and yeah, no, they didn't. As y'all know, if you're into the Titan stuff, all they did was basically just give him a nice little snack. He's gonna go take a nap, soak up all that energy, and yeah, he'll be large and in charge and ready to kick some kaiju ass. I can't sing this sequence's praises enough. I mean, I really wanted more stuff like this from this series, and I'm happy that this was one of the things that they chose to tackle, because I really, really like getting into the minutia of just what we did when we first witnessed these Titans. Like, how did we handle this? How did they keep it a secret? And, how did we, figure out all these things out? Like, what was the response? And, obviously, Godzilla being who he is in this series or this version, he'll let a few things slide. And I guess to us at this moment in time, they think that, oh, wow, we really did a number on him, but they really just don't know that it was, again, a sweet treat in his book. So, it's just this stuff that I really appreciate that this series is doing. And again, I got to say, even though I haven't gotten to my wrap up portion yet, this is why I think that this like past half with younger Lee Shaw and everybody is just so much stronger, because this is giving me the stuff that I really want to see out of this series. Anyway, we get back to the plane, and obviously Kentaro is still talking with Lee. He's still getting more information about his dad, and Kate just really can't seem to let go of the fact that her dad essentially lied to them. She's trying to get Kentaro on her side about all of this and really trying to say, like, hey, this was not cool what he did. He basically sat here and lied to us our whole lives. How are you just all right with this? But Lee is again trying to instill in her that, this was a secret. This was not a lie, which in turn comes in the title, Secrets and Lies. This was something that he had to do to protect you. And, we had to do this to really make sure that if the government wasn't going to let us tell everybody, then we had to make sure that our loved ones, especially, were shielded, were kept under wraps. Again, the interpersonal drama between these guys in this episode isn't necessarily the strongest here. It's not nearly as strong as episodes 1 and 2, but I think that it still goes into the mystery angle really well, with us going on this journey to find their father. In which case, we basically get to the point where, they're flying the plane, they get coordinates after May ends up going through a bunch of data that, Lee, I think, just offhandedly mentions that they sorted things by data and numbers rather than code words and things. And she's able to find some old notes amongst all of the Randa files, basically pinpointing that Hiroshi was going to Barrow, Alaska. So that gives them kind of a trajectory now. Instead of just going to Alaska in general, they're going to Barrow, and that's essentially their mission now. They're going to head right there. And then this gets us into kind of our last two segments of the episode. One, the aftermath of the H bomb test, and hitting Godzilla with that, where Kay is very upset. Obviously, she's still mortified that they did this to this creature. Billy's not very happy, but he's trying to cheer her up. And it's not until Lee comes back and tells them, hey, I know today didn't go how any of us planned, but I wanted to update you that I did report to the colonel what we would need, or the general what we would need, and just what was going to happen. And it turns out that the general is so in their corner. I mean, why wouldn't you be? That he's ended up decided to fund them, give them everything, a blank check essentially, to make Monarch a very, very big and important piece to the United States government. So yes, in their mind, they did have to sacrifice old Godzilla, but they got a bunch of money to further their exploration and study of the Titans, in which case Kay makes a very distinct point to again bring back that title to us. She basically tells Lee, hey, what if we kept a couple of the things, the couple of the Titans, rather a secret? And he's just kind of like, oh, you want me to lie to the US government? And she's like, well, no, secrets are different than lies. I really like that callback. I really think that it's a sweet relationship between her and Lee. I'm really curious to see what you guys think of that. I think they have a wonderful friendship, and I think that it develops really interestingly as the series goes on. But this whole sentiment, I really think, is very important. And as the series goes on, you're going to see more as to why it's important. And when you go back and rewatch this episode, like I have after having further context, I think you're going to really see that this is a very important emotional moment to the series. Bringing us into kind of our final segment of the episode here, after a very tough and rough landing, which does actually produce a pretty sweet moment for Kate and Lee, where they finally do start to get along. She helps him land the plane. They get to Hiroshi's crash site, presumed crash site. Yes, once on the ground, they find a bunch of plane wreckage, and they're looking through it. They're trying to figure out, is their father still here? There's a body in the pilot seat. It is not their father. But yeah, it just seems like, damn, whatever happened here was tragic. The plane is ripped to pieces. I mean, this is awful. But Duho, he goes a little bit further ahead, and he finds something pretty impressive. Over the hill, there is a camp, essentially a big tent set up, and the team goes in there and they find out that, yes, this is where Hiroshi's been staying this whole time. He's been here, or at least not now, but he has been there. They find pencil shavings, and there's a sweet moment between Kentaro and Kate where, yes, they're like, okay, our dad didn't die in the plane crash. They hug, they embrace each other as brother and sister, and think, okay, there's a chance that our father is still alive. Whilst the group is trying to make sense of what's going on inside this tent, Duho gets a closer inspection of the plane, and what he realizes is that this was no plane crash. No. They had landed, they put down their gear, and they tied down the plane and everything. They landed safely. And it's not until further inspecting the wreckage that he discovers a giant claw mark within the plane's outer exterior, and it freaks him out, and he starts yelling for everybody to head back to the plane. He gets there, he unlatches it, he unhooks everything, and he starts it up. But as he does, the ice begins to crack below and around him. Yes, this reveals probably my favorite new addition to the kaiju thus far in this series, with, and I looked it up this time, guys, unidentified ice monster. Yes, we do not have an official name yet for this guy. As of when I'm recording this, by the time the episode's out, maybe they have dropped a name for him. But damn, this thing's cool. It's like a pangolin and, some like tentacle tremor looking monster. I loved this. Luke absolutely adored this. He texted me right after he saw this episode. But this thing's damn cool. And yes, unfortunately, as seems to be kind of the thing with this show, we only see it for a few minutes, maybe even just a minute or two. But it is really impressive, and it leaves you off on a pretty damn good, you know, cliffhanger. And I promise episode 4 definitely delivers on that cliffhanger. But yeah, it's really cool. Unfortunately, our boy Duho meets his death when this thing bites down on the plane, and instead of having atomic breath, fire breath, it has frost breath, and it freezes him to death. And it's pretty intense. It's definitely not the way I wanted to see him go out, but I mean, it's a pretty awesome trade-off in a sense, though, because we get a really cool and unique looking kaiju. Definitely one of the best that I'd say the MonsterVerse has produced thus far. And yeah, it's at that moment, after all said and done, that the episode calls it quits. We leave on another cliffhanger here, just kind of trying to say, all right, what is next? Well, we have to wait till episode 4 to find out. I said it right at the top, but this is my favorite episode of the 3 so far. Again, I love what we're doing with the reincorporation of things from the MonsterVerse. I love the new addition of this kaiju. I think that it's super unique, way more interesting than the stuff we've seen previously. And yeah, we do get a pretty sad death with Duho, who wasn't around for very long, but definitely in my book made an impact. And yes, we continued the Hiroshi storyline. We actually do have confirmation that it seems like he's alive. And, you know, I do like that. Again, seeing more of the formation of Monarch is really exciting. And overall, this is just a really entertaining episode. And I really think that people are going to love this one. At this point in recording, the episode is not out, so I don't know what the general consensus is, but I think if you're a diehard MonsterVerse fan, if you've been with it from the beginning, and if you are just a diehard Godzilla fan, there's going to be a lot of winks, nods, callbacks, and things to the MonsterVerse and just little things to Godzilla's history in general that you're absolutely going to fall in love with. And yeah, this is one of the best moments in the series for me thus far, and I definitely, after seeing this a second time, can say this is one of the best episodes. Not saying it's my favorite episode, that one comes later, but one of the best. But yeah, guys, that's everything that happened on tonight's episode. Definitely let me know what you guys thought of it. Is there anything that was a bit of a disappointment to you? Are you guys still upset with the fact that we're not getting Godzilla for, 20 minutes out of a 40-minute episode? I mean, it just wasn't going to happen, guys. I'm sorry. But we still get him. He's still in the series. There's a lot more kaiju love to be spread about in the series. Stick with it, I promise. And yeah, I really think that the added addition of Lee Shaw to this current group, the more present group, I should say, really gives the series some more life. So let me know how you're feeling about our characters. Let me know how you're feeling about the situations they're in. Was that reincorporation from Godzilla 2014 with the archive footage something you liked? Or was that something you weren't big on? Again, I think it's a pretty great intro for Godzilla. I think seeing him come up out of the water was absolutely epic. And like we said in our spoiler free, he's more of a garnish in this, but he is still awesome when he's on screen. But yeah, guys, if you like this video, please give it a like. It definitely helps get this video up there in the algorithm. Definitely want to keep the conversation going with you guys about Monarch. And hopefully, as we continue on here, we'll get more and more people on board, more and more people eager to check it out as long as the good word keeps spreading. And yeah, if you really like the content we're producing here, check out some of our other stuff. We do a lot of horror movie things on here. We do like our creature features, so there's some of that back there. And I'm definitely going to be doing some more Godzilla content as we get closer to Godzilla -1 coming out soon. And I'm working on kind of a big essay on the horror elements of Godzilla. So stay tuned for all of that. Hit that subscribe button. And until next time, I'm Dylan Newell. And remember, stay scared.